So it's Sunday, March the 13th, 2022, if you can believe it, and I'm just out here drinking coffee. The CTO of radengineering.tech is doing the video, but I'm here to talk about a few things. Before I get going, I know life seems really crazy right now. One of the things to keep in focus is we don't have to give in to that dark energy. There's a lot of bad energy out there. And before I continue with any of the topics that we're going to discuss today, it's not easy. I don't have a magical solution. One of the things that's been great about this project is it's helped me disengage from, what they call the news, whatever it is. It's a lot of scaring people to death. And what we're trying to do at RAD Engineering is, attract people to life. Okay, I know that sounds a little bit philosophical and over the top, but no more of this scaring people to death. Yes, we got problems. Yes, we have all kinds of things out there that can concern us. And it may seem like the world is too big for us, but it's not. So if you don't know, we're currently working on a project, and it's just one of our projects called the RAD Terminal. And the RAD Terminal, the concept is really simple. It's an all-in-one system, radio, computer, and software, that allows one person to talk to another person digitally right now, where we're starting using CB AM radio, single sideband. And this is pretty cool because, the software is not completely done yet. It's about a week out, but we've been doing lots of testing with it and with JS8 Call, which is what we're using. By the way, we're using JS8 Call as a core piece of software architecture in our ecosystem to send and receive these messages, but it's been really great. One of the subjects that's come up recently is mesh. Now, before I continue, mesh has been around more or less since Wi-Fi has been around. Ever since the first Wi-Fi routers were being sold, people were thinking of how can I hack this infrastructure to create my own wide area network within a town or a city. And this is awesome. But one of the things I want to point out is whether it's mesh or Terragraph or some of these other technologies, they will say, and this is the truth, the honest truth, they are the final mile technology, which means that they don't solve the great distance problem. They solve once the information gets local, how can that local network behave problem? And how can it utilize the internet problem? This is not the problem we're working on right now at RAD Engineering. But the good news is we can plug into that. We can plug into mesh. We can plug into a local Wi-Fi network. We're building a multi-tool that's designed to plug into a lot of different systems. And so the good news is if you're out there working on mesh, we can use your help. We can use your support. We want to work with you. We're not, in fact, we're complementary. What we're trying to do and what you're trying to do works together. So that's pretty much what we should be doing. Another subject that's come up is, do I need to get an expensive transceiver to participate? And the simple answer is no. You can get an SDR dongle for about $30, and that plugs into your computer. Now, it's only a receiver, but that receiver can allow you to use our software to push data from the radio up to the internet as long as the internet is functioning. And I say as long as the internet is functioning because every RAD terminal is going to get a version of our Notes application that is currently running on the World Wide Web. We hope the World Wide Web functions correctly forever, right? But if a day comes it doesn't, each individual node is capable of providing that kind of content. That being said, if all you want to do is run a receiver station, this is very helpful. This can help us get information from radio traffic to the web, where maybe that bridges the gap in a scenario that's far less catastrophic but very real. Situations in countries where there's a lot of oppression. People can't access Facebook, they can't access Twitter, they can't access the World Wide Web. But using our ecosystem, one RAD terminal could receive a message. Again, set up that shortwave, monopole antenna, right, Justin?
Yep.
Single line antenna with your SDR, and maybe you can't transmit, but you can receive these digital messages from other places, and you can be the person that helps get the message out. So if you're asking, do you need to spend a lot of money to do this? If you have a computer today running Windows, Mac OS, or Linux, and you're willing to spend the $30 on a dongle and a little bit more on the antenna gear, which maybe costs you some wire, right, Justin?
Some wire, $10 in wire.
$10 in wire, $40, and you can be decoding JS8 Call today. And when you have our software up and running, you can be pushing and pulling data to the World Wide Web. So we're pretty excited about that. And that's something where if you're saying to yourself, is that helpful? It's extremely helpful because different people can be on different frequencies. So we can have lots of folks pulling data off the radio and making it available for folks. And this can include things as simple as want ads, like for sale. I have a truck for sale. I live in the middle of nowhere. I have a truck for sale. I don't have internet. That person can push a message out and someone can pick it up. So we want to set up listening stations, and that's what this would be classified as, a listening station. So if you're interested, contact CTO at radengineering.tech. That is CTO at radengineering.tech. Another thing that's important that Justin and I are working on right now is we're building our own library. And when I say library, some of it is electronic in the sense that I'm collecting PDFs to put on these RAD terminals to make available to people so they can fix their own stuff if they can't contact us. I mean, in case of an emergency. We believe in right to repair at RAD Engineering. And right to repair does not mean we abandon you to the wolves, but it does mean we want to empower you to be able to solve problems yourself. But one of the ways you do that is to build up a library. And the books you need to build up, I got to be honest with you, a lot of them need to be paper books, like real physical books, not electronic, physical paper. And you might say, well, Dan, that seems really, really old-fashioned. Understand that we are not talking about scaring people to death here at RAD Engineering. That's what everyone else is doing right now. We're trying to attract you to life. And one of the ways to attract you to life is to consider the possibility that maybe the electricity won't always be on, maybe you won't always be able to recharge your Kindle. There might come a time, for weeks or months at an end, where you're going to need these books. And these are books related to science, like Justin and I. We went to this old, like, not a bookstore, but like an antique shop or a collectible store. And we found this, I think it's von Nostrand's scientific encyclopedia that arguably in 1970s dollars probably cost you 50 bucks. Today probably cost you 500 bucks. It's this gigantic book. And just about everything related to science engineering you can imagine, to include basic sketches of boiling water reactors, are in that book. That's just an example. You need to collect these types of books together and build yourself a technical and engineering library. And if you have the time, books on alternative medicine, books on first aid. There's a lot of good special forces books out there on emergency surgery and first aid and trauma. Get those books, collect them, physical books, because that's going to be another item that will be extremely valuable. One of the things I say a lot in my podcasts, and I'll say it again, there are many things today that they will tell you are priceless. Tomorrow they will be worthless. There are many things today they'll say are garbage. Tomorrow they are gold. It's something to consider. So start building out a library. And if you're into Linux, build out a Unix Linux library, Python scripting books, C programming books, because that's going to allow you to interact with Linux type systems at a basic level. Get those books together and get yourself some versions of Linux on dongles, wrap them in aluminum foil, and put them someplace safe. Because believe it or not, Linux is probably going to be one of those things, one of those tools in our collective toolkit that helps to keep the lights on. Right now, Justin and I are building a video guide. What is a video guide? A video guide is a guide that helps you do a number of things, including set up a RAD terminal homebrew station yourself, which means you don't have to go through us. You can do it yourself. You can order your own radio, your own computer. You can do it yourself. What we need from you is input. What information do you need? What's your skill level? If you're out there listening and saying, Dan, I'm really low skill level, I don't understand a lot of this radio stuff, that's the kind of feedback we need, because we don't have an infinite amount of time. We have finite resources. Justin and I are doing this on a bare bones, very limited budget right now, a budget essentially of zero for all intents and purposes. And so we can use all the help we can get. So if you're out there and you need information, we're going to build video guides, but we would love to know the kind of stuff you need to or want to know. A big part of this is going to be about learning and teaching. And what does that mean? That means Justin and I are just two people, and this will never work. We will never take back our freedom with respect to digital communications unless it is as many people as possible. It's not communism. It doesn't have to be everybody, but it needs to be enough people. And nobody knows what that magic number is. But what I do know is it's more than two. So if you're out there and you're asking the question, how do we keep this going? One of the ways we're going to keep this going is by all of us learning and all of us sharing the information we learn. You know, there was these homebrew computer clubs back in the 70s. If you want a simple model for what we should be shooting for to get back our digital freedom, I don't care if you're mesh, I don't care if you're experimenting with crypto, I don't care what you're doing. If you want to work with us, a great model is the Homebrew Club. Let's put our RAD terminal kits together. Let's talk about the code. Listen, I'm writing a lot of software right now. It's not going to be perfect. It will be functional. And a lot of folks will say, well, can we help to improve it? Yes. I'm not going to be using GitHub, but you can email me and I will integrate changes you make. If you come up with a better solution to a JavaScript problem in a particular page in the application, you email me, I'll test it, I will give you credit, and you will be helping us out. And with respect to teaching and stuff like that, same thing applies. We need people out there to advocate, not for Dan, not for Justin, not for RAD Engineering. We need people to advocate for their digital independence. There's a lot of black holes out there, okay? I don't want to spend a lot of time on negative energy, but there are a lot of people out there that will basically tell you a couple things. You can't do that. If someone is telling you you can't do that, it's not possible, those people are trying to just be a black hole of nothing, ignore it. But some of the worst people are the people who say, well, there's only one way, Dan. There's only one way. You can only do it one way. If you don't do it our way, it can never happen. If anybody tells you there's only one way we're going to get back our digital freedom, I don't care if it's crypto freaks, I don't care if it's ham radio dudes who are, 80 Boblimtok years old and think there's only one way to do it. If someone tells you there's just one way, they are a black hole. They are nothing. You need to avoid that shit. Above all else, I got to say this. Justin and I appreciate your support. I know this seems like a huge task for people to do, but if you consider what we're trying to do is get other people involved in solving it, it's not that big a problem if we all work together. In fact, it is a solvable problem. We have to stop scaring each other to death with the COVID, with the Russians, all this crap, and we have to start bringing people to freedom and life.